what is the type of content that gets the most results?
One of the biggest lessons was you got to have audited financials if you get to a certain size. The skill set and the oh shit moment of being careful is when you scale, right? Making sure you either yourself or you quickly align a team that has all the needed core competencies, right? Like you don't want to do it wrong and you're out of business because you couldn't manage cash flow correctly. The effectiveness of genuine content on the direct to consumer side and the reason why UGC performs so well for most brands is the same reason adding those other harder variables to the mix of in-person, spending time on the script. The reality is it transfers over through the video to the person ingesting it and they can see.
Hey guys, and welcome to the CEO After Dark show. I have John Roman with me, who built BattlBox into a subscription powerhouse. He scaled it, he sold it, he bought it back, which is interesting. And he's basically super deep into the subscription space. He's deep in content marketing, and he's also the co-host of the Awesome podcast, which means that he has also like a media company running on the side, which is sounding like a lot to me. And hopefully he's going to tell us how he does all of this at the same time. John, thank you for joining me.
Hey, George, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
What are you working on these days? You're doing obviously quite a lot. So like, what's your main focus?
So main focus probably across the board is doubling down on content. So for the BattlBox side, we're started in 2015. Outdoor adventure brand. The flagship product is the membership, which includes a physical box every month, and that's 85% of our revenue. So it's substantial. But a lot of the secret sauce with BattlBox through the years is the content piece. So content and community are these two pillars we lead the business by. And, every year we look at how do we tweak, how do we make it better? And with the consistent rising costs in customer acquisition across the board, right? It's, for us, it's twofold. It's the traditional rising CACs of the metas of the world, just because that's what's going on nonstop. And then, I don't want to say a saturated brand, but we're established. There is some saturation because, we've been advertising now for 10 years, right?
Yep.
So I think you put both of those together and you're obviously going to have CAC challenges at a certain point, especially when you're in a niche. So the working theory is we have all this great content. It's a little untraditional in the sense that, probably about 60% of our customers come from organic content as the top of funnel. And then we move them through the normal process. But, so the working theory is we're doubling down on our frequency of content. So typically we're at about 1.3 posts a day on average per platform. And we're going to get that, north of 2.4 this year with the play being purely top of funnel for the D2C business. And then on the awesome side, it's the same thing. It's content, right? So it's how do we continue to grow that all channels. YouTube is our flagship channel with certainty, but we need to figure out how to do better on Spotify and even grow YouTube to a substantial number. I want two more of these this year, and Awesome is gonna hopefully get me one of them.
That's super interesting. I mean, like I speak to a lot of people in the e-com space, and like to me, it seems that most of them are addicted to paid content, like advertising, basically. So it's super interesting how you guys are focusing so much on organic. Like, first of all, did you start like this, or is this a new thing?
Yeah, so I can sit on a high horse and talk about how great organic is, but I do have a secret addiction to paid as well. It's still a bad addiction. It's but no, so we didn't start like this. But we got there pretty quickly. So we launched in 2015, and 2015 playbook for us. We sent out month one. we sent out about 30 of our boxes to YouTubers.
Mm.
And we wanted organic reviews unbiased, just shoot us straight. And obviously we selected, YouTubers with decent following. And that was part of our playbook. That's probably pretty standard now I mean, that's just a different flavor of influencer seeding, right? It's you're getting the product out there organically. So it to be fair though, not a lot of people were doing it in 2015, right? It wasn't the standard part of everyone's playbook. So we had a lot of success with that. To also, predate us in 2015, prior to checkout, we had a post purchase survey where we were asked you how you found out about us. It had all the
Yep.
usual suspects, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, etc. And there was another option. And, in the first couple months, we were seeing about at times 20, 30% of people. And we're onboarding, I think month one, we onboarded 300 new customers, month two, 1,200, month three, 2,400. So it was getting a significant
Yep.
subscriber base, but they were all clicking other. They were putting Curran 1776 in. We're like, okay, what is that? We find his YouTube page. He's doing reviews. We go to our Google sheet where we're setting all of our comp boxes. He's not on there. He's a customer in our top box, paying and every month just doing a review. But man, his YouTube channel is growing. People are tuning in every month to see this video, and we quickly realized, hey, step one was you don't have to buy a box anymore. We're going to keep sending this to you. A couple months went by, and it was step two was, hey, we're continuing to see this growth. We're going to write you a check for $500 every month. Keep doing it, but also if you have a problem with the product, let us know, and we need you to post it on this day every month. And then the next conversation was, hey, do you want to quit your day job and just do this full time and move down here and just we're gonna quadruple down on content. So you're doing one video, the review each month, but like I'm envisioning this is your full time job. This is your career now, career change, and you're just gonna push out as much content as possible. And that he moved his family and wife and three kids and quit his 20 plus year career, um, and came
Wow.
down and we started shooting content. And that scaled too. When day one, he was the guy in front of the camera, he was the camera guy, he was the video editor, he was the guy posting it, he was farm to table. And now he has three full-time video editors supporting his content, and a social media coordinator and a social media manager. And um, it's changed a lot, but it's always been since 2016 this push on content. We
Yeah.
obviously had our Netflix show in 2020, which was just more of what we were doing. So it's always been a piece, and it's always made scaling on the metas of the world easier,
Yep.
because we can be prospecting on there. We can run all of our campaigns on reprospecting. We don't even have to necessarily even carve out a percentage for reprospecting. We often do, but we can just do fully prospecting on there. And the reality is probably about 30% of it is true prospecting, but about 70% of it is more of a already in funnel, and
Yep.
we just don't know, because I can't get a pixel on a guy that just is watching our TikTok videos, right? That's not engaging besides liking and commenting and sharing. They're not going to our website. So it's cool because oftentimes prospecting is also really mid funnel for us. So
Yep.
it's a super bizarre thing. 40% of our base take greater than they know about us greater than 6 months before making that first purchase, which is a long time, right? We have about 20% that come in the traditional, week and a half, but for 40% to know about us for greater than 6 months, it's just very unusual D2C behavior, um, because we've leaned so hard into the content and the community piece.
I want to talk about the Netflix show that you've done because I'm super curious, and I mean it's quite rare that somebody has a Netflix show. But before I get into this, do you mind like telling us, in your view, in your experience, what is the type of content that gets the most results? I'm assuming it is feeling authentic, it is like user generated, like that type of thing is the narrative at least that I see. But what's your
Yeah,
take on that from the trenches?
yeah, and so it's that, right? So it's genuineness, it's authentic, being authentic, it's educational, it's funny, it's real, right? It's humanized. We don't sell. We don't very rarely, I won't say never, but 95% of our content, we're not even selling. We're either educating, showing a product that we're reviewing to determine if it's going to go in a box, behind the scenes stuff. We're not saying, hey, sign up for a subscription, right?
Yeah.
That's never a pitch. um and I think that's key, right? People don't want to be sold to. And when people get sold to, it just doesn't, you don't like it, right? It just needs to be natural, organic, in their feed. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
that's cool. These guys are showing me how to get out of masking tape,
Yeah.
if you're stuck, or how to break a window, or stuff like that. So it's just fun, educational, and just genuine, humanized.
And like, would you say that what you did is like a playbook that others can follow? Like, basically, like make a seed list really of people that you send the product to, and then you pick the people that get traction, and then kind of like try to incentivize them in a way to produce more. Like how? Like, I guess my question is, if I'm a new brand owner and I want to get into creating organic content that kind of gets me business results, what
Sure.
would you suggest I do?
Yeah. So going, our exact playbook is a pretty difficult one, because not often are you going to be able to find an up and coming creator. Um, so much of it was timing, and they were a paying customer, and then to be able to have the resources to say, hey, quit your job, we're going to pay you more money, come full time onto us. Full
Yeah.
time creator is an aggressive move. That I don't know that, I it's tough to replicate, and I don't even know if it's the necessarily the right playbook. It clearly worked out for us, but um, if I'm going traditional playbook, it's just building. So people say building community, and I think there's a bunch of different ways to do it, and you should be doing multiple ways. There's building community on the actual consumer, right, your customer side, but let's talk about building community on the creator influencer side. So, we have a Discord group that our marketing coordinator set up. So he's reaching out to creators on TikTok, creators on YouTube, and he's just creating this community, right? And we'll have contests. We're having a TikTok shop contest right now for all of our creators, and the it's running for all of Q1. And whoever gets the most sales, we're just giving them $2,500 in cash. Um, and every week we're showing the standings, we're showing who's winning, who went up and down the rankings, and it's just building community. We're also, sharing best practices. It's bigger than just us, right? Like, we're just talking about, what's working, what's not working. You have a random creator sharing something that's working for him to another creator. So when you create community like that, and you get people engaged, and it's mutually beneficial, you can accomplish great things. And I
Yep.
think I think that making it less transactional, it's not just, yes, you're going to send this influencer or creator this product, and you're gonna have them sign something, and yes, they're gonna then post a video or whatever the agreement is. But that's so transactional. Like, make it a relationship, right? Like, yeah, it can have a transactional core to it, but like,
Yeah.
build on it, right? Work with people you like, work with people that are passionate. It kind of takes care of itself, right? You can't look at it in a with blinders on, and it yeah, it's just, you've got to be a little bit more open. Um, I compare it to when I was such a lagger in being able to, uh, I'm talking post iOS world, when there was this shift where you have to look at everything kind of in a blended CAC world a lot of times, and I was just so stuck in no. I need to know what the CAC is on this platform and this platform. And I don't care about this platform if I'm looking at this platform, but I finally like understood. oh wow, blended CAC actually works because my increase in connected TV over here is actually driving down my meta costs over here. And little things like that, it's the same thing. You just got to kind of look at the big picture sometimes and act accordingly.
How did it go with the Netflix show? I mean, how did this happen even in the first place?
Man, it was so in 2017, so three and a half years before we premiered the show. The show premiered July 4th weekend on Netflix, and it's a Netflix original series. Um, and they we had a studio, High Noon Entertainment. So they're known, the two feathers in their cap, Fixer Upper
Mhm.
and Cake Boss are their two like big brand shows that they have. So they reached out to us. They had seen our content. Um, they had received some money from the History Channel to shoot a sizzle reel, which I didn't know at the time, and I don't even know if they really exist to the full extent that they do now. But you shop the sizzle reel to try to get money for a pilot episode, and then if the pilot gets well, you try to get money for a full season. So they reached out. They wanted to shoot a sizzle reel. We shot the sizzle reel. Um, we were excited. History Channel sat on it for 6 7 months. Finally, told us no. They took it to the Discovery Network again. 6 7 months. Told us no. Um, it there was some in between on that, and fast forward. It's 20. It's 2019, the start of 2019. So it's been 2 years of us trying to figure this out, and we can't. The production studio tells us, hey, we're meeting with a couple people this January. Two of them, one Walmart's streaming platform, I think it was called Voodoo. I don't know if it's around anymore, and Netflix. And
Mhm.
they met with Netflix, and Netflix literally in the meeting is like, well, we don't do sizzle reels or pilots. Like, we'll give you money for one season, and we want the right of refusal on the next seven, and
Mhm.
it's just go time. And they came back to us, and there's several weeks of back and forth, and us trying to figure out this world, and we ended up agreeing to it. And Netflix paid for the whole thing. They came in the second half of 2019, filmed for 5 months, came back again in January just to get some reshots of stuff for continuity. And then it went live July 4th weekend in 2020. It was not fun to work with, if I'm being honest. They
Okay.
so I wasn't on the show, right? I wasn't part of the talent. Um, there was a initially when we were going through the concepts and the sizzle reel, I was comfortable being on the show. The Netflix ass of their talent, it was a bit much and not something I was comfortable with. 24-hour notice. You have to be anywhere domestically in the US for promotion, like just like strange ass. Um, Clearly like your talent. And so I wasn't on the show, but the Netflix team that was our point of contact the entire time, they were a talent management team. So they wouldn't talk to me like at all. Like the
Okay.
people on the show would they'd get an email from Netflix, hey, let's meet Friday at 10 o'clock. They'd reply back and say, hey, we're adding in John to the email so he can come to the call. They'd reply back, remove me from it, and say, no, John is not on the show. And these are like very important conversations because we have to prepare as a business for this. Like, you're already
Yeah.
taking four of our employees off that we're having to backfill. You're already we're having to go to production and try to make a guess that when a Netflix show, what does that do to traffic? Like, they can't tell us that information. We're making $1 million decisions on cost of product to be ready for the show to drop, and they won't even have a comp. They won't even talk to us.
Yeah.
Uh, so it wasn't a great experience, if I'm being honest.
The sounds really messed up, to be honest. And I mean, when it went live, did it actually move the needle? Like, was it helpful for, like, in a business
Yeah,
sense?
So we somehow forecasted it correctly. Pure luck that we nailed it. But we were, prior to Netflix, we were getting about 150,000 unique visitors a month on our site. In July 2020, the month that Netflix went live, we got 1.2 million unique visitors.
Oh, wow.
Now, George,
That's
they didn't convert and behave in the same manner.
I can
Uh,
imagine.
yeah, it's not highly targeted people, but we knew that that was going to be the case. So we had traditionally we just had the above fold CDA. We're pushing the membership subscription box, but in preparation for the show, we had two CTAs above the fold. One was shop products from the show, and it was literally by episode all the products we tested on the show to purchase, in addition to the membership. So, the membership grew exponentially with that much traffic, but we also made a lot of one-time sales. So it was big. I mean, it the second for several months afterwards, our monthly visitors was still elevated on a 2 to 3x, and even to this day, like you look at our post purchase survey. Where did you first hear about us? And to
Yeah.
this day, if I look right now, last 30 days, 4 or 5% of people are saying the Netflix show. So it was very long in the tooth, which was surprising because, man, we're 4.5 years later.
Overall, like, would you recommend it or not really?
Yeah,
Tough.
I would recommend it. But it just was not fun to manage, right? I think there's a lot of learning lessons along the way, mistakes that we made out of pure naivety the first time, um, and with certainty we wouldn't again. Like, I think we were so excited about it, we and we knew it was going to be a good opportunity, which it was, but we probably weren't. We probably allowed people to run us over a little bit too much. Like the fact that other people of leadership can't have a call about a show that's literally about our business, and like this is mission critical, like that's just unacceptable, right? Like, sorry, like we should have just at that point know, like, well, guess what, if you're not going to talk to me, then the talent's not showing up tomorrow. Like like we should have probably been a little bit more, um yeah, less pushover than we probably were.
I can relate to that, like from the agency standpoint, when you have like a project that you're really excited for, you start like kind of like excusing things, and then like suddenly you
Yeah.
go out of scope. Like I get the feeling very well what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, because like it's exciting and it's pretty, and yeah, you come up with excuses. There's excuses.
But you spoke about learnings and lessons learned. So when you look back into not just this particular instance, but overall, like running the business, selling, rebuying the business, like you've been through a lot. Like what are like some top lessons that that come to mind? And again, like think about this in the following sense: I'm a guy that wants to start a business. Like what would you suggest that I keep in my mind as I'm like getting into entrepreneurship?
Sure. So I'll hit the first part first. Man, it's a boring answer, but it's the first takeaway that came to mind was, if you're it you know there's a lot of reasons to start a business, right? Some of you, if you want a lifestyle business, just cash, just a lifestyle, that's one thing. If you want, if you're wanting to start a business because you want to build it to something and then sell it, um it's it's an interesting approach with the latter. And the one of the biggest lessons was, um you got to have audited financials if you get to a certain size and you want to be acquired. We did not. So we, knock on wood, we somehow timed the market when we sold the business. October 2021, when it sold, it was arguably at or near the peak valuations for direct consumer brands. But we would have closed sooner. We had a letter of intent, um, in Q1 of that year, and it took us roughly, I think, 8-9 months to get the deal closed. And the reason it took so long was part of due diligence. We needed audited financials, and we didn't have those, and it was such a heavy lift. Our CFO, our controller, they probably just wanted to lay in bed and not come to work at times. Like, it was bad. It was a very aggressive um, proctology exam, and but we did it, and after we were acquired by a SPAC, so we were publicly traded. So we obviously had to continue, and honestly, it got to a new level of what expectations were with our financials. But when we bought the business back, that was one of the things we said we're going to continue doing: audits and um, audits and audited financials. We at the end of the year we do inventory audits with a third party. We do financial audits, and it's such a best practice. It sucks when you're not doing it, and the thought process of having to do it is a little bit of has a little anxiety in it. But doing it is like such a game changer. And when we get to that next chapter, when we sell the business again in a couple of years, few years, um, it's just going to make the process that much easier, right? Here are our audited financials. Like, we're not going to argue back and forth on EBITDA at this point. Like, this is the EBITDA, this is the adjusted EBITDA, and if we're using that as the valuation, this is the price. I think it'll streamline a lot of stuff. If I'm going to your second question, I'm starting today. It's an interesting approach, but I think if I'm starting a business today, I'm getting myself out there with content and building a community with content before the product.
Okay.
So I'm trying to find some kind of content piece that I think people will identify with, that I can um, be passionate about as well. And I think if you can build the audience, they're going to tell you the product that they need. Um, it's a very unusual approach. It's this Mr. Beast Nelk Boys approach, right?
Yeah.
Where it's not like it was in their original playbook. That wasn't their playbook. They just got big with content and audience and community, and then they were able to drop these businesses into them, and they were instantly successful, right? Like, how many brands on day one of launch can be in every Walmart nationwide? Like, no, you can't do that, right? So it's an interesting approach. Um, that would likely be the approach. Um, if I'm starting at this point, I have an audience, a couple different audiences, so I would lean in on that. But yeah, I like the idea of creating enjoyable content that you're passionate about, finding your tribe, your community, and then creating a product for them.
Do you think this is something that anybody can do? Like for example, you are obviously well spoken. Like you are like good, a storyteller. Like can anybody do this? Or is it like a learned trait, or is it just like being a natural? I guess when it
um
comes to.
yeah, I think you can learn it. I think anybody can do that. Anybody can learn it. I think the skill set and the the oh shit moment of being careful is when you scale, right? Making sure you either yourself or you quickly align a team that has all the needed core competencies, right? Like, you don't want to do it wrong and you're out of business because you couldn't manage cash flow correctly, or you didn't understand margins, or you didn't understand customer experience. So I think anybody can do it, but the rubber hits the road when you get success, and how you manage the business at that point. Which is why you see a lot of creators where they it's all they're just marketing companies, right?
Yeah.
Like you look at Prime Energy or Prime Hydration, right? I mean, they're just licensing. I mean, they're putting their name on something, and then there's an actual uh, there's a different company producing it, a different company running the business management, right? Like, So I think a lot, Mr. Beast was doing that. I think the guy he had that was running a lot of it, I think they split ways. So I don't know how it's all being managed. I also know he's having a lot of trouble with all of the businesses. So I think you can again look at them and the ones that were smart and it found the team, right? They knew they didn't have the core competency. So I think self realization of knowing what your core strengths are and what your weaknesses are and get a team or get business partners or get partners that can kind of be your yin to your yang.
What's your take on podcasts specifically? Like I mean, I'm not living in the US, but as far as I can tell, podcasts like largely determined the recent elections, like more so than the mainstream news did, at least. Like that's my understanding of it. So, what's your take on that? Is this um, a play you'd recommend, or is it like more about video content? Like, how do you think about this?
Yeah, so I mean I think it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. I think B2B, B2B, I think podcasts, if you're putting together a good podcast, you're getting good guests, you're bringing good value, good topics. Um, I think it's great business development, lead gen, um, for the business for the same reasons that as a direct to consumer brand we're talking about that organic content that isn't selling, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same theory on both sides. It works. People want value added for free. They want to identify, connect with our D2C with our organic content, with your podcasts, and then it's just naturally in their mind when, hey, oh, I want some outdoor gear, or hey, I need an agency to help me figure out Facebook, right? And you're there front and center because you've injected yourself into the ecosystem with quality content. Um, so on the B2B side, I still think that that's the value of it. On the D2C side, yeah, not as much, but it's there too, right? To your point on elections, supposedly I don't know if I fully buy in to that, but the reality is consumers are ingesting podcasts more and more and more. Podcasts are you can watch it on your computer, you can have it on in your car. Um, there's a couple of podcasts that I listen to regularly, and it's part of my routine. When I get in the car, I put on this podcast. So it'll be interesting. It's just another way to ingest, right? Um, the value of a podcast is, you don't have to be fully engaged with your device to listen to it. While short form vertical content, TikTok, YouTube Reels, or Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, you have to be engaged and looking and swiping. So I I think there's a lot of podcasts currently. It seems just to be the thing to do, but I think there is value if you can be a signal in the noise.
I have this theory, and I want to hear your take on it. That the harder it is to do what you're currently doing, the more likely it is to succeed in a way. So, like the Awesome podcast, for example, that you guys are doing, it's recorded live in person. Like you have to like actually meet, which means you need to travel, which means you need to pay for an Airbnb, like all of those things, which automatically makes it hard for somebody that doesn't want to invest all of this effort and money to kind of like replicate. And I think this is obviously the content is good also, but I think this also adds to why it is so successful. Like, what's your take on
Yeah,
that?
100%, right? It's yeah, it's definitely a variable. I think it's unusual. People are like, oh wow, these people are actually they're truly putting in the work, right? And I think for the same reason we talk about the effectiveness of genuine content on the direct to consumer side, and the reason why UGC performs so well for most brands is the same reason. Adding those other harder variables to the mix of in person, spending time on the script. The reality is it transfers over through the video to the person ingesting it, and they can see. And I think that's it's the same theory and the same reason.
What's the flywheel for you, like as an individual, as a personal brand? Like how do you think about media? Because you're doing a lot of media appearances, right? So like how does it work?
Yeah, so I mean there's two buckets, right? So like for the BattlBox brand, I'm engaged with our customers. They'll see messages from me in our private members only group. For only it's a paywall group, so it's only active members are allowed in there. I'll drop messages, giveaways. I'm engaged in there. But for the most part for the BattlBox brand, I am not the face. Brandon Curran is our main face. We have Austin Martin, who is also a face of the brand. So they're the front and center, in front of the logo, in front of the brand people. Um, so on the content side, that's one thing. On the awesome side, there's a few different things. One, if I'm looking at the three reasons why I do it, and the last one is a little uh, it can go in a couple of different directions. But the first one, and you and I were chatting about this before, it keeps me sharp, right? Which is good for me as I get older. It's also though good for the business. So we're coming up with topics and diving into them and doing research way before we record. And part of my exercise, like I'll go deep on a topic, and from that I'll get ideas for how to apply that in the business. Um, it'll bring up points where next thing I know, I'm sitting with Walter and his marketing team because of this topic I was doing on the podcast, and then we're peeling the onion back and we're finding, hey, oh my gosh, we should, we're not going to do that, but this is the way to go, and we can test this. So it's constant improvement, both for me professionally, personally, but also it keeps me kind of a finger on the pulse of all departments of the business. So that's the keeps me sharp.
Yep.
Second piece, uh, it's expensive to do the in person travel, the Airbnb, the professional film crew. We typically, there's typically at least three people there. One's managing sound, one's managing the three cameras, and sound art equipment is their equipment. One's doing a live edit of the different cameras as we're talking. So that's expensive. So the monetization, the sponsorships, um, there's not a lot of meat on the bone after the dust settles, but it's there is money there because we have to pay for all this stuff, and we're not just um, donating our time and money.
Yep.
So there's that. The last piece is the personal brand piece, which is probably it's definitely one of the important factors. I think it's up there with keeping me sharp. And there's a few different ways I look at the personal brand piece. On the personal brand piece, I don't think there's a clear direct correlation that's of size on getting me more BattlBox members and customers. There's just not. Now, what I do and what I try to weave in at any point possible is the normalization of BattlBox. I think preparedness in general, being ready for a situation, and that could be as simple as having some solar lights and some power banks in case your power goes out. Right? I think having that mindset, I had this Hail Mary concept that if I can keep spreading the gospel of just general preparedness, I can change behavior, and that just makes BattlBox from this small niche lake to what could be an ocean. But I think that's a Hail Mary, right? I don't think I'm going to get a big enough audience ever to accomplish that. So that's the nice pie in the sky. Back to the actual tangible personal brand stuff. It's really twofold. One, um, selfishly, there will be life after BattlBox, right? And I will need to figure that out because no matter what BattlBox sells for in a few years, I'm not retiring. There's no amount of money that I would take where I would ever retire. I enjoy building. Um, so I have to know what's next, and it'll be a lot easier to figure out what's next when I already have an audience. And it's a large additional network, if you will. Now, The other piece of it is there's a lot of topics that I can talk pretty deep on, and I view myself as pretty high level on those topics. And we talk about those topics by design a lot in general in my content online, but also on the podcast. And I think there's value there because it's confirming to the audience, to the masses, that
Yeah.
I know what I'm talking about, but also selfishly, in three and a half years, whenever the exact time is right to depart from BattlBox, and find the new suitor, you know, having that out there, there's going to be instant funnel for the larger companies, the private equity companies.
Yeah.
We're going to be on their radar before we even need to be. And I think that's a big, 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 big piece.
That's super smart. I meant to ask you what's next for you, but I guess you kind of answered it already in a very interesting way.
Yeah, so we got BattleBox. The plan was never to buy BattleBox back. That was not ever part of the playbook. We sold the business, we got paid. We're gonna work there for 3 years, due to this earnout and bonus, and then in October 2024 we will leave and we will be done, and then we're gonna figure out our next chapter. And once we got in there, they were publicly traded. They were a SPAC. The markets were not very kind to SPACs around that time, so they lost a lot of their market value. And there was just an opportunity. They needed cash, and we saw the opportunity to give them what they need and get our business back at a heavy discount. So we bought it back in April 2023. That was not part of the playbook, but it was just such a good arbitrage opportunity.
Yep.
We had to do it. So with that being said, uh, yeah, the plan when we bought it back is a 5-year plan. So next month will be 2 years, a 5-year plan at minimum, and it might change. Who knows? But it's definitely several more years. We're definitely going to keep improving BattleBox and make it better. Um, for the foreseeable future, the next few years with certainty before we're even looking at that.
Thank you for taking the time, and I learned a lot in this
And this is
conversation.
fun. I enjoyed this.
Thank you for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.